Do you ever feel like the system's been rigged from the inside? Like, no matter how hard people work, they fall further behind while billionaires keep getting richer, public schools keep getting attacked, and every branch of government seems more loyal to corporations than to actual citizens. It's not your imagination, and it didn't happen by accident. It started with a memo. In August 1971, a corporate lawyer named Lewis Powell, just weeks before being nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court, wrote a confidential letter to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It wasn't meant for the public. It was meant as a wake-up call to American business leaders. He told them the free market system was under attack, not by armed revolutionaries or a foreign enemy, but by college professors, journalists, consumer rights advocates, labor organizers, environmentalists. What scared Powell wasn't violent protest. It was the idea that everyday people, workers, students, activists, were starting to question who held power and who paid the price for it. And Powell wanted to shut that down quietly, but permanently. He laid out a strategy, not to win the public over, but to control the institutions that shape the public's thinking. The media, the universities, the courts, the law, the government itself. He told the Chamber of Commerce to fund think tanks, legal organizations, academic programs, and lobbying arms to build a permanent infrastructure that would tilt the playing field in favor of corporations and the wealthy. And here's what I find disturbing. They actually did it. They followed his playbook line by line, decade after decade, until the public institutions that were supposed to serve democracy became pipelines for corporate power. You've seen the results, whether you realize it or not. Wages are basically stagnant while CEO pay explodes. Union power has been crushed, public schools defunded and demonized, judges appointed not to protect your rights but to protect business, news outlets bought, sold, and rewritten to serve the highest bidder, and a political system awash in corporate money where lobbying isn't a backroom deal, it is the system. What the Powell Memo created was legalized minority rule by the wealthy. Not through a coup, not through violence, but through quiet, methodical infiltration of every democratic institution. And now here we are, over 50 years later, living inside the results of his memo. This is part one of a deeper dive into what that memo set in motion. In the next episodes, we're going to break down the impact this memo had on labor and wages, education and the culture war, the courts and the Constitution, and the broader collapse of American democracy. Because you can't fight what you don't understand, and you cannot fix a rigged game unless you name who rigged it and how. So let's start here. Let's learn what the Powell Memo really was. And then, let's tear that fucking playbook apart. Mama's pissed.